I'm Robert Thiemann. I'm the founder of Frame. Welcome to the Frame Awards live judging panel, October. I know it's November, but we will be looking at projects that have been submitted and won an honorable mention or the Interior of the Month award in October. We do this every month. We have a revolving jury panel consisting of 15 people from all over the world with all kinds of background. And I'm really proud to say that the October jury panel was very diverse. I will introduce you to them shortly, and we will have a relatively big group here live today with us. And they will tell you exactly why they've chosen the projects that we will be discussing to be the honorable mentions of this month and the winner of the Interior of the Month award. Before we do that, I will share my screen with you and show you our program. So shortly, I will be introducing the jury panel, and then they will have the opportunity to introduce themselves. We will be discussing the honorable mentions for projects and the Interior of the Month. And then we will see if the jury panel could derive some trends from what they have been looking at. And there will be room for a Q&A session. If you want to participate in this jury panel, please make sure to send your questions using the Q&A button that is available on the menu bar of Zoom. So the jury panel, as you can see, 15 people from all over the world, from Australia to the United States, Singapore, China, Europe. From all over the world, we have females, males, people in education, people in design ambassadors even from Singapore, younger people, older people. This is what we want, and this is what I am particularly proud of, that we have such a diverse jury panel in October. Let's see who we have here live. Hello there. How are you?
Excellent, thank you.
Please unmute yourself. Please briefly introduce who you are, mentioning your job role, where you're based, and basically what you're doing on a daily basis. And Lauren, may I ask you to begin?
Sure. My name is Lauren Tui Otto. I am currently working in Berlin at a company, Kinzo. My role there is head of design. And at our company, we have a very user-centered approach to different projects. And within our team, we have a very diverse team. So we have a lot of different perspectives that we take it from and disciplines. And yeah, we like to approach every project uniquely.
Thank you. Bhavin.
Hi, so I'm Bhavin Taylor. I run an interior design studio in London, in the UK. And I kind of create interiors that are based on my company motto of love, color, embrace pattern. And basically using that motto, I like to push each and every one of my clients to love, color, and embrace pattern. Simple.
As we can see. Thank you, Bhavin. Vivian, hi.
Hi, I'm Vivian van Schagen. I'm a founder of the boutique design studio based in Amsterdam, the Invisible Party. And we create designs for the hospitality and the retail industry. And our designs, they look for a holistic approach where the brand identity, the graphics, the artwork, the interior, all speaks one story. So very narrative-driven design we create.
Thank you. Franziska?
Hello, and thanks for being live. Excited to be here. My name is Franziska Heuschkel, and I'm the co-founder of the creative studio Space and Pepper, together with Hannah Aries, who's also on this call. And we are on a mission to humanize spaces. And that means we have this big passion for understanding how people live, work, and connect, and how we can translate these insights into spatial concepts. And we work mainly with community-driven and shared spaces, such as co-living or co-working, innovation hubs. And for this jury panel run, we also, similar to Lauren, really looked at this human-centered approach and the functionality of spaces.
Thank you. Howard.
Good evening, folks. My name is Howard Duffy. I am the founder of HTD Studio Architects, based just outside of Stockholm, founded in Brooklyn, New York, 20 years ago. I'm an American living in Europe, which is right now a great experience because I think I'm finally living those things that I had preached to my clients for many years. So, right now, I'm primarily head of a research-based design firm. We work in all areas from branding and furniture to private homes, energy projects, and larger projects, community projects. So I have the real privilege of working with people inside of Sweden, in the north of Sweden, in terms of portable energy centers, portable data center prototypes, as well as back in the United States, from retail to residential in the Northeast, as well as now studying circular economy and what you call clean construction projects, affordable housing in South and East Africa. So I think being that I've gained the 6 hours of time in Central Europe, I think I have a more advantageous position to work with not only the United States, but parts of Asia, Africa, and Europe alike.
Thanks, Howard. John, hi.
Hi there, my name is John Olsop. I'm an architect based in London. I run my own studio here. And I would say that if we have anything close to a slogan, it would be that the ego lies with the project. We're always looking to build interdisciplinary teams. So we're very highly collaborative, especially with interior designers. And we think that if the project wins, everyone wins. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, John. Hannah.
Hey, yeah, I'm Hannah Aries, co-founder of Space and Pepper. Franziska, thank you for doing her elevator speech. So I'm pretty focused on really connecting from my background. So in my career, I always was focused on building experiences. So during my time at Airbnb, I was building communities. During my time in my event agency, I was building programs for employees. So that's exactly what I do. And when I see a space, I always think about how people are interacting, but or how they are also interacting with the space. So this is definitely what I have done during the October month. So yeah, happy to be there.
Thank you, Hannah. And Mark.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Anderson. I'm a US trained architect and designer. I transferred to Milan, Italy a number of years ago, where I've divided my time between practice and education. Currently, my role is as Dean of Domus Academy, a postgraduate institution that has 11 masters across different disciplines.
Thank you, Mark. Well, so this is representation of the October jury panel. And of course, this is a very big group to discuss 5 projects with. So that's why we decided to split them up in 2 smaller groups who will discuss the honorable mentions and interior of the month, in total 5 projects. And we're here to learn something today. So please stay tuned. You will get to know some insights into user-centric experiences, because there's a big focus on that, as you have heard from some jury members, and some other perspectives as well. Why did we choose to have such a jury panel? Well, because all too often jury panels are star-driven. You need to be famous and very important, and then you can join a jury panel. But we think that every professional, and I'm emphasizing professional, has something valid to bring to the table. You don't need to be a star designer or a star client working for a big corporation to be on any jury panel. If you are a true professional, you bring your own perspective, and that's what we like to embrace with the Frame Awards. If you do that, you make a much stronger connection with the design community out there, instead of just focusing on the top layer. And we believe that working in that way, our awards program grows much stronger roots and will be reflecting much more the point of view of practicing studios all over the world than other award programs. And this is what we like to do. We like to embrace our community in order to bring the profession of interior design to a higher level. Sorry for my little preaching here, but I felt that was important. So let me now share my screen again, and we'll go to the first honorable mention. It's a single brand store designed by Arc City Office. And I would like to ask Lauren, Bhavin, John, and Hannah to give their perspective on this specific project. So Lauren, Bhavin, John, and Hannah, please let us know why you liked this project. And I'm showing the most important hero image. Lauren, would you care to make a start, please?
Sure. I think to begin, the material quality of the space is just really incredible. I'm always a really big fan of natural materials that can grow a patina over time. I think that always clues towards a timeless design. It will work even when it gets worn in and lived in. I also think that the spatial qualities of the double height spaces and the staircases just really enrich the space, both like to be able to circulate, but also the visual connections that you create in it. And I think that just really becomes a very interesting and curious experience to be in there.
Thank you, Lauren. Bhavin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, like for me, while I was doing all of this judging, because you're judging quite a few projects at a time, it would always have to be things that attracted me and what was standout and things like that. So for me, it was the this kind of steps with the mat seating areas. You know, it's such a simple concept. It's so beautifully executed, and that kind of, you know, sucked me in and got my attention. So that's kind of why it got my vote.
Thank you, Bhavin. John, what's your perspective on this project?
I think this had two elements that really caught me. I think one was that it had a very playful use of space in terms of its spatial system. It has a grid which has a relationship to what they consider a human scale and a more structural scale. So I think that really came across well in the use, and it's very evident, let's just say, in the experience of the space. But I think the most important thing for me personally in admiring this project was that it celebrates, one of the items that's sold here is, it's books. And, what Bhavin just mentioned, that space with the steps and other spaces in this store encourage you to linger. I think that books are very intimate things. I think that, and the space to color the actual spaces where you can relax and sit encourage you to have an intimate relationship with the space. So I thought that was great.
Thank you, John. And last perspective from Hannah, please.
Yes. So when I looked at the pictures, I right away thought I want to spend the afternoon there. And I think it's kind of an excellent thing to have retail stores, creative stores attending to kind of implement this experience for people. And I think this is definitely the right way to go, because you want to extend this moment, this experience for people. You want people to come back, to stay more, to bring a friend maybe the second time. And then after they exit the space, talk about it, maybe on social media. And I think this is creating kind of this warm feeling and completely nailing it. So that's my point of it.
Thank you, Hannah. So a strong user experience altogether, strong architectural presence as well, which got this project the first honorable mention. Let's go to the second project. The second honorable mention is for the Department of Architecture for an architectural library. It's a learning space, and we have selected this image to show, the most eye-catching element of the space. Can I invite Franziska to kick off, please?
Sure, with pleasure. So this library for me was such a perfect example of how you can reinvent a space by really expanding its functionality. So they wanted to really activate this library in a way that it goes beyond just, going there to pick up a book, to read, but actually also do a lot of things that are connected to a learning space. So maybe meeting fellow co-students, gathering, exchanging about a book. And the space really did a beautiful job of incorporating many more functionalities while still kind of staying true to its DNA. So it is an architectural focused space. So there's a lot of creativity and play around this notion. But again, just a beautiful example of expanding a functional scope and activating a space.
Great. Another strong user experience as far as you are concerned. Vivian, what's your perspective?
I found one, so within this space, there were a lot of different experience developed. So you go from one experience to another. And one striking image I found was from the staircase, which was built up from, I would say, a grid representing empty bookshelves. And reading the text from the entry where it says that they're exploring the meaning of a library in this digital age, I found that very visually explaining that concept, right? Empty bookshelves, this grid of an empty library, because everything is found in digital knowledge, and still you get this feeling of being in a library that, where you want to wander around and gather, get rich with information. So I thought that storytelling was very interesting visually.
Thank you, Vivian. Howard, what's your opinion of this project?
Well, this was certainly on my own personal short list of great projects for this particular program. I really like that, this is kind of a renovation project. The three strongest elements of this for me were scale, maintenance of visibility of structure, and then this kind of inner workings of this gridded instrument that is convertible and transmutable and able to display certain many things, from models to books to what have you. I think what I like most about this building is that it certainly maintains confidence without trying to grab too much attention. It's kind of a knowing project, if you will. I think really that's what stood out to me, the fact that this is an existing building that was kind of reconstituted. The structure was left bare to be seen throughout the building from top to bottom, and then inserted was this instrument or mechanism, this kind of transmutable 3D grid of display capability within the library. So I mean, that's really what stood out for me.
Thank you, Howard. And Mark, your perspective, please.
Okay, the programming of educational buildings is being radically transformed with new functions based on integration of new technology, new ways of teaching, new ways of learning. This character has to be managed also in the common spaces. This is a common space which uses new ways of occupying the space. It's multifunctional. It's one of those spaces which allows a new way of creating community within the school, which is actually part of one of the heart of the school. Different ways of learning, creating the community together. From its architectural expression, I agree with Howard. One of the things which I liked a lot about this was that there's this 3D grid structure in the open space, where it actually became an object, but also a hollow object, where it was a connector, and also different functions such as of bookshelving or exhibitions. These are things which can easily fall behind when the budget starts getting cut, when one is designing these types of spaces and buildings for education. So I think they've done a great job pushing through, doing a modern, very contemporary resolution to function, and also with an aesthetic which is about what the school is. It's also an architectural school, so we have a link between the aesthetics and the conceptual.
Thank you, Mark. One of the joys of having such a diverse jury panel is to get all these diverse opinions about these projects. And I personally like that a lot. Every jury member speaks about something different, be it user experience or the fact that the storytelling is taking place here, or an architectural element is eye-catching. And it's exactly that what we like to bring to the table of this profession, all these different perspectives that you can use to look at projects. It's not only about aesthetics, it's not only about creativity, it's not about taste, it's about much more than that. It's about a variety of perspectives. And thank you all for speaking in such a variety of ways about these great projects. Well, let's have a look at the next one. This is Stereoscope Coffee by Wig Architecture and Land Design Studio, and it got a merit for the best use of color. This shows the essence of the project. And Lauren, please give us your perspective.
So this project it's very small of a space, and I think their use of the artworks, like first just putting artworks on the ceiling, having it come down, it really highlights, of course, the verticality of the space, kind of drawing your eye up and making something. But what I really like is this sort of juxtaposition between such a classical piece of artwork but digitalization, you know, so it's like this reinterpretation of something that you would put on the ceiling at a point in time. So I think that there's a really charming irony to the space, and that really creates a unique identity to this cafe, that it's not just any cafe, but you know, you can describe it in 1 second and everyone knows which place you're talking about. So I think that's a really successful use of art and color and application.
Thanks, Lauren. Bhavin, this is colorful. That's your area of expertise, isn't it?
It sure is, and I'm not sure if I should admit this, but I clearly missed this one when I was judging, so I'm gutted as heck. But it is what it is. I'm going to tell you what I think of it. Obviously, being all about color and pattern, this ticks pretty much every box for me. But what is kind of like the main focus is that they've gone up, and the ceiling is quite a forgotten area when people design. And you know, here we've gone full scale, pattern, color, it's everything. And what's the kind of winning point for me from this is that we live in an Instagram age, and this coffee shop is definitely going to be recognized, noticed, because everyone's going to go in, take that selfie, post it, and it's just smart design, because like I said, we're living in an Instagram world and it's all about that photo, and basically this project ticks that box 100%.
Thanks, Bhavin. John, what do you make of it?
This is an immersive piece of art. I'm quite shocked that it's a coffee shop, because you wouldn't imagine that someone would go to that sort of effort to sell coffee, because I'm sure you've been to a lot more bland coffee shops than this. But that's the thing that stands out for me, because it's not just the ceiling. You know, you're going to, you know, it's not just a Sistine Chapel selling coffee. It actually wraps around down the walls as well, and it really gives you, and it sort of bleeds away into the mundane space, which is just the one selling coffee, actually. But I think that it gives you the impression that you are walking into a piece of art, and obviously, you know, it's a result of a very collaborative, you know, exercise between the designers of the space and the art. And I don't mean to say that the design is mundane. I'm just saying that the use is a coffee shop, which is very everyday. And as Lauren was saying, then you look up and you have this absolutely extraordinary thing above your head. So I think that for me, the immersion is really the winner for me.
Fantastic, John. Thank you. And the last jury member to say something about this project would be Hannah.
Yes, I'm pretty aligned with everything that have been said. I had kind of two reactions of it. First was, wow, I kind of never seen that before. And the second, I wanted to read more about the story behind the designer and the artist. And also this 3D, because I learned that, yeah, reading that it was 3D, we can see it in the picture, but I guess in reality, it should be way better. And so I discovered this project months ago, and I still have it in my mind. It's a super good sign. And I think maybe in 5 years, you will enter and you will see that, and it will be kind of timeless.
From a user experience point of view, is there anything that springs to mind?
So for me, like as it's a pretty small place, I will kind of expect that the experience is entering, grabbing a coffee, and just living out. At the beginning, my first reaction was, okay, like, what is this sitting scenario? But yeah, for me, the overall arts experience is completely working.
Thank you, Anna. So let's move on to the last honorable mention, and that is for a temporary site of a market in China designed by Luo Studio, and it got its honorable mention for its use of material. This is what the space looks like when in use. I think this was a project that ranked high amongst all of the jury members and almost made it to the winner of the month. So let's see what Franziska has to say about it.
Yes, so the reason for me why this space definitely has its place here in the honorable mention and probably got so close to being the winner is because it managed to create a really highly functional setup with a relatively low budget and in a very quick amount of time. So I think somewhere in the briefing it said that the architects, the designers get the briefing, okay, we need like a rapid construction at a low cost. So there surely is this temptation to work with cheap materials, to kind of go and grab the ones that are very obvious. But with this project, we learned that there was really this conscious, mindful approach to how you can create a setup that works for the people going shopping there, but also has this reusability. So we're talking about sustainability a lot, and one way to look at it is to have this adaptability, to be able to reuse it or even remove the different modules and create something new. So that is, I think, a quality that a lot of projects in the world could have, and that really impressed me personally. And for the human-centric part, what I loved is, if you also look at this picture, there is some, use of timber. It is very lofty. There is some wayfinding. So I could perfectly imagine how, shopping or food shopping can become a delight here, not just an errand, oh, I have to pick up this and that on my way back, but, you could look forward to going there because it presents kind of a good feeling to you. So really bravos to this project.
Thanks, Franziska. You're a fan.
Yes.
Vivian, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I think everything Franziska tapped into is pretty much what I liked about it too. It is that it's the sustainability aspect that was completely produced out of prefab materials, and that it can create such an impactful space as a function that it was a market. It's a market that needed the roof, and yeah, I think that is really well done, that with this low budget in mind, to create such an impactful space where it is about a really user-friendly experience. You can find your way around, you have an overview, you don't feel cramped, and yeah, you feel like you're out in the air shopping. So yeah, well done.
Small budget, big impact. That's what creativity is about.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vivian. Howard.
Yes, this was also on my personal short list. I really admire the architects and designers, the team's decision to create this palette, or I guess you would call it syntax of elements, from the web truss and translucent roof to kind of the place smart demarcation and the various containers, the boxes for the individual merchants and food types, and you know, by category. It's just a really incredible way to, you know, use kind of off-the-shelf industrial materials in a very elegant way. They should do more of this, and we have actually, there's something similar to this in Stockholm. That is now closed, unfortunately, because the original project has been completed. So it's moved back to its original enclosure. But you know, these temporary projects are often great because they actually teach us a lot about what could be in a permanent case. And it would be a shame if this had to close down, because I guess the existing building was complete, and then this would be kind of deconstructed and reused somewhere else. So yeah, it's great when temporary architecture becomes permanent. Hopefully this will be around for a while.
Thanks, Howard. Great. And last but not least, Mark, please give us your perspective.
Okay, thank you, Robert. One of the things which I find interesting and peculiar, as you mentioned, this is one of the projects that got the highest ranking throughout the month. But at the same time, it's almost a prefabricated project with prefabricated elements. So it's the architects are essentially using standard elements with a very tight palette, which, you know, places, it's very interesting contrast to other projects which we've seen and evaluated during the month, where we see and very elaborate uses of materials, and here we are standard, but this means that there's behind here there's the thought of the architect and how he's using standard elements, but also the fact that they've decided on this typology of building within the particular context, you know, within the urban context, this very light structure, very luminous, and I think that the contrast is something which makes it so special.
Great. So now we know all about how temporary projects can teach us a lot. Let's move to the interior of the month, and that has been won by the HKPI headquarter office in Hong Kong, designed by Design Systems Limited. Congratulations, guys. The project was submitted for the small office category. And let us look at some impressive images. And I would like to get all of your perspective on this one, because it's a winning project. So Lauren, could you kick off again, please?
Absolutely. I mean, we just see a very small detail of the space, but I just was so astonished with the palette of the whole entire space. It has such unique like explorations of materials and different materials within one space, and how they come together, how they can create like clarity of spaces, zoning it, so to say. And I really love the planters outside. I think those are so cool. They're like iconic. They're very unique. They're very elegantly made, and they're just so interesting. And I just loved it. It's just so nicely made and very quiet. Like, it's not a very distracting project, but it's just very beautiful, I think. And it's just a wonderful example of sort of, yeah, material collage and spatial collage. I was really impressed.
Thank you, Lauren. Bhavin, are you that enthusiastic as well?
I'm not going to win popularity contest here. This is a great space. There's bits that I like, but I personally find it quite a cold space. but I'm going to give them their credit because the space with the big planters and the trees is definitely a very serene space, and I think that's essential for everyone's well-being wherever you work, whether it's at home or in an office. So having that kind of space is absolutely essential today. But one thing I do like in here is the reuse of denim to create the office panels. Yes, that picture. You know, it's a technique I have not seen before, loving it. Obviously coming from an ex-fashion background, love denim. So the fact that it's being used in interiors is amazing. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Bhavin. John.
Yes, I think that the word is palette. Lauren beat me to it. I think that this is really a project that you can imagine the presentation. And I know that interior designers have different ways of presenting palettes, but you can imagine the material board being brought into the room. And I think that that would have been in itself would have sold the project. I think that the palette for me is an absolute winner. It is a little bit cold, but I would say that the project would have benefited from having some people in it. And I think that, you know, when, you know, you could walk into a building, a glass and steel building, and it could still be warm if there's a bit more, if it's filled up a bit with people and mess and plants and so on. So I think that this building sets the stage for something which is quite exciting. I think at the end of the day, I would want to work there, and I would want to, well, not necessarily work there, but I'd want to spend time there, which is the important thing. I think that I was very impressed overall.
Cool. Thanks, John. So Hannah, what can you say from a user perspective?
Yeah, I definitely second John on I would love to have seen like all these pictures with people, actual people, to see how they interact in the space, because there is so many different areas. So that will be really good for me. I also have seen that I definitely noticed that the designer definitely thought about every detail. Like the overall aesthetic is definitely beautiful, but also when you go to the details, when you zoom in, for example, how you open the door, this kind of detail for people are pretty well done. And they kind of taken in consideration the employee journey. And when we know that kind of employee happiness goes from having these green spaces where you can just have a chat, just have your break, also having different light scenario, to also I need to give like kind of a shout out for the using like also upcycling materials. It's pretty well done in the overall project.
Thank you. And your colleague, Franziska, same opinion?
Yes, pretty aligned, thank God, with my co-founder. Maybe two things I can add to what Hannah said that I believe really stood out is, especially now that offices are transforming, that people may not come in there every day of the week. The picture that we actually see right now, which a designer calls the Sky Garden, if you look at the layout, really sits at the heart of the entire space. So there's different areas of working assembled around there, and it allows for this opportunity as a connecting space for people to run into each other, maybe to have a company function, maybe to have some casual meetings. So it feels like a space, a very airy, lofty space with these beautiful planters and trees for people to connect and come together, which I believe is an important quality for workspace in the future. And the second thing that I really encourage the entire audience to do is go on the Frame website, look at all the details, look at the video that the designer uploaded, because there's an incredible amount of love for detail. Like even some highlights I loved was like some pillows, some decoration, some interior activation that shows just how much thought went into putting this concept together, which just makes me kind of fall in love with this concept of designing a space, because it just shows the creativity and the craftsmanship that these people have. So congratulations to the winner.
Fantastic, Franziska, thank you. Vivian.
Yeah, I think knowing that this is a office for a textile business, I think that makes the storytelling even stronger. So what you see here is we just briefly discussed is the denim walls dividing the different office desks. I think the interior is very texture driven, and maybe there are a bit cold textures. So we see a lot of marble and stone, but it does have different textures and patterns, which I really think address to the owner and of this business. And I thought, I was imagining sitting there at a desk, and what I really like is that every surface here is thought of. So wondering, looking your eyes at the ceiling, or staring at a wall, or looking at the floor, you drift away and you're in this environment. It's every corner you look at, it is designed and with detail, with eye for detail, and not too much. So I think it's a dreamy interior, but still office like.
Thank you, Vivian. Then Howard.
Yes, this is another one from my personal favorite list. Congratulations to the team. It's really like, it's such an evocative space. It's like Mies Prouvé and Charles Eames were at the same party, but certainly not derivative. It's its own new typology, if you will, or its own new palette type. From the book matching of the stone and the wood to the soft handles of the doors, and even a lot of the panels that were created for relief from the concrete. And there's one photo you haven't shown. It's kind of almost like an inverted mushroom out of concrete, probably lightweight concrete, that is absolutely exquisite. And this space tells you how things are going to go. It's not asking questions. It's not having any doubts about itself. That said, it's certainly in plan. If you go to the Frame website and look at the plan, there certainly is room for transconfiguration, relocation of workstations, and even alternate use within an office range of uses. So this is a fantastic project. It's well deserving of its award.
Great, thank you, Howard. And Mark.
Yeah, I think this. Thank you, Robert. I think this is actually a very important project. It looks back to some building styles and typologies from the past, as Howard mentioned. But maybe we could also mention some aspects of institutional brutalist architecture, which somehow has been projected into the future, been softened with precast concrete elements, and then mixed in with this flat contemporary modern marble. But there's a depth in it as well, and so while there's the surfaces are hard and cold, there's a warmth to it all, and I think it all just works really, really well. Very, very, very nice project.
Thank you, Mark. So those were the winners of last month. Now I would like to get your perspective on the whole body of work that you have seen. I think you've seen around 80, 90 projects last month. And they were from all over the world in all kinds of categories, big budgets, small budgets, with a focus on materials or color or just the user experience. What stood out? What did you take away from it all?
Well, I'd say, Robert, what I take away from it all is actually commending you and your team in your sense of curiosity, given the range of projects from the very lowest budgets to the very highest and everything in between. I think your forethought in terms of really trying to get everyone with regard to strengths, typologies, markets, relevance, quite frankly, is to be commended. So I think, hats off to you and your team, first of all, for really exhibiting the sense of curiosity in this broad range of projects, from adaptive reuse to kind of really corporate projects to hospitality. And in really showing, as these have been kind of winnowed down from this very long list of projects, the ones that stand out the most, and they are all different.
Okay, thanks, Howard. Speaking about interior design trends, is there anything that you want to discuss? Is there anything that, with regards to, for instance, sustainability that you noticed?
Me? Yeah, I would say, I mean, there's only a handful of projects, we've kind of talked about. I know John mentioned greenwashing, which is something that I am vehemently opposed to. Sustainability is more than the architecture. I think the architecture as manifest in sustainability is at the very tip of the iceberg. I think, from the outset, and it takes a special client and it takes a special designer to help educate that client, really what that means in terms of across of economics, post-occupancy, material, location, supply chain, so to speak, and detailing. Just an example, the bookstore we saw as the short list, that's the honorable mention used rammed earth, which I think, is just woefully underused. I'm actually using this technique myself in Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States, imparting a technique of what you would call clean construction, minimizing on-site and off-site construction waste. So I think between the clients, the end users, the architects, the interior designers, and the contractors, we have to have a deeper conversation of what we want this industry to be, because as most of us know, 99.5% of the world's architecture is created without architects, without interior designers. And so we have to remain relevant if we're going to really help lead the way, ask those questions, and have those conversations about true sustainability, particularly in the West. I think the rest of the world has figured it out, whether it is elegant or aesthetically pleasing or not. We have indigenous populations that use the whole fish, they use the whole tree. So, between that and managing energy and waste, day in and day out, I think sustainability has to be taken a lot more seriously. It should not just be a feature, it should be a philosophy. And, I'll do my best, as I'm sure all the jurors here will do their best to help promote that message. And we look to you as an institution to help promote that as well.
True words, Howard. But to be really relevant means to be relevant to people. So let's talk about the user, and maybe Lauren, Hannah, Franziska, from your perspective, if you look at the whole gamut of projects that you've seen, what can you say about them being as user-centric as you would like them to be, or is there more ground to gain?
Yeah, I'm happy to share a few words on that. I thought that going through all of these projects, there was really a significant amount that, as you could read about the approach and the concept that the designers uploaded, there was given a lot of thought into the user experience. And there's different ways of looking at user experience. One can be the user journey. So how do the people move through the space? What is the entry experience? What is the exit experience? But there's also this notion of sensorial experiences. So what do you see? What type of materials do you touch? Like how, as you sit down and maybe you share a coffee with someone, like what is the atmosphere like? And of course, images can only transport so much. But I was quite impressed to see that there was a lot of thought and mindfulness around how to improve the user experience for a variety of spaces. We've looked at markets, we've looked at, of course, gastronomy places, offices. So it's nice to see that this notion moves really into very different sectors and branches. And of course, we hope to see more of that.
Definitely. And if I can add something more, something pretty different on this functionality part. What I noticed is that there is this kind of growing, like a kind of a huge development of hybrid spaces. Means right now, our home are a bit our office. When you looked at some project, like coffee shops also looked a bit like office. vice versa. Retail also are using some coffee shop kind of code, also cultural kind of spaces. In hotels, the lobbies looks like our living room. So what I notice is that there is kind of no delimitation now. A space needs to feel like home, but also like a coffee shop. And you need to take in consideration these needs of the different users. So this is something that I noticed.
Would that not be endangering the authenticity of these spaces if they all start to look alike, if they all become like home spaces? Wouldn't it become one bland, as they say, airspace? Are you not?
Exactly. I think it's more like a recipe. You can use an ingredient in multiple recipes and it can taste totally different when it's in combination with other things. I think actually those hybrid spaces really start to even feed off of one another, like a concept store that has a cafe inside of it. And then you get this sort of aspect of, I don't know, coming back again because you want a coffee, or I don't know, you went in there for the first place of curiosity because you were curious about, I don't know, some logo that was made out of a carpet on the wall. I don't know. So I think that it really enriches one another, I would say, instead of
and exactly. And I think you want people to stay. And what would make something kind of original or unusual will be to really study who are the people who will be in my space and design exactly for them.
Yeah, I think also just like looping back around to this topic of sustainability again, I mean, the social aspect of sustainability is a huge aspect of it. You know what I mean? Does this space also take care for you? Does it provide you the flexibility to be able to use it in different ways? And ultimately, if the spaces really function for the users, if they really work, you will keep the design for longer. You won't demolish it again and try to rebuild it and stuff. And so I think when they start to jive together, you start to get a real, actually functioning circular concept.
Great. One last final word, because my virtual background is breaking up, I can see. That means we need to end the session. One final word from Mark, from John, from Bhavin, from Vivian.
One of the things that's been really pleasurable throughout this experience to see such a wide variety of projects, budgets, typologies, and even styles and trends, we can say. And through that, what's been interesting is that we can see that the projects have excelled, that we've caught our attention, are driven by ideas. And that's that their ideas and architecture and gone into it, independent of typology, independent of budget, and I think that's what makes all of us.
Thanks, Mark. John.
Yeah, I think, well, one of the big takeaways for me is that it really drives home the point that we are all very international now. I think that if I just was to squint, I was to have a big board with all of the projects in front of me at once and squint, I could hardly tell you which one was in China, which one was in Brazil or the UK. There are many reasons for that. There was an old joke in one of my studios where, we said that, everybody's looking at the same Pinterest images, and, that is a real fact. But, we do have many of the same sources. We have people who are trained across borders and then come back home. So I would say that is something that is, it's definitely an impression that I'm left with. But I'm also impressed that some projects stand out. And I think there was one project in particular which was not shortlisted. But I just remember it because it was in South Korea. And, the second that I looked at it, I knew that it had a cultural context that I was not familiar with. And for me, that made it stand out in itself, just because my curiosity was piqued. So I think that that's something that we will see much more in terms of in its importance. So that, where are you going to bring the character? Whether it's because we're very globalized or because the home, the idea of the home is going to be infused in so many things. But of course, the thoughtful and creative designer is going to find unique ways to bring some sort of language to that speaks to us and piques our curiosity in their own way. So yeah, that's one thing that I take away. But I would say to myself and to other designers, remember that your story is unique, and I think that we should express our own personal story in our work a little bit more than perhaps we do at the moment.
Great. I think that's a really great last remark to round up with. Guys, thank you very much for your expert opinions. Thank you very much for the time you've spent looking at so many projects. I really appreciate it. And it's not about me, it's about our community. I'm sure that our community appreciates what you have been doing over the last month, looking at all of these projects, commenting on them, scoring them. We've got some great winners, I think, and we've got some great insights from you today. So thanks again for that. Audience, thank you for being with us. I had a great session. I hope you had a great one too. All for me that is left to say is next Thursday, the 12th of November, 5 o'clock Central European Time, I will be having an interview with Lorcan O'Hurley of Loha Architects from Los Angeles about his work and about his approach to architecture, which is very much based on, let's say, social foundations. Is apparent in the title that we've given this interview. How can the USA build back better? Very interesting, I think. Hope to see you there as well. Thanks again for joining. Jury, great work. Thanks very much. Have a great rest of the day. Goodbye.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank
folks.
you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.